What if the next medical breakthrough could change thousands of lives? Welcome to Moving Medicine Forward, the podcast that pulls back the curtain on the breakthroughs shaping the future of healthcare. I'm your host, Jeremy Schrand, and together with CTI's leading experts, we explore the cutting edge of clinical research transforming patient care. Each episode, we dive into the science, strategy, and innovation driving medical advancements, joined by global therapeutic experts who are redefining how we understand and treat critical disease. From rare genetic conditions to revolutionary treatment protocols, we're not just discussing research, we're sharing the human stories that move medicine forward. Today, we are learning about Quell Therapeutics, a UK-based biotech company developing engineered regulatory T-cell therapies to restore immune balance in autoimmune, inflammatory, and transplant-related conditions. Think chill, not kill. We'll learn what that means as we are joined by Luke Devey, Chief Medical Officer at Quell Therapeutics, and our own Chief Commercial Officer, Savannah Doliboa. Let's dive right in. Welcome to the podcast, Savannah and Luke. We're so happy to have you here today, and I can't wait to hear about Quell.
Thanks for having us, Jeremy. We're super excited to be able to update you.
Delighted to be here.
Luke, for those who may not be familiar, can you start by introducing Quell Therapeutics, including what you are focused on and what makes your approach unique?
Sure. So Quell makes engineered T regulatory cells that are a little bit like CAR T cells, but our cells are the chill cells rather than the killer T cells. And they modulate immune reactions and calm down inflammation. And actually, we like to think that we are the leading engineered Treg cell company in the world. And we've had a number of programs now. We began with a program in liver transplantation, trying to get patients off of their transplant immunosuppression because it causes long-term complications like cancers and infections and renal toxicity. And we've had a major collaboration with AstraZeneca in type 1 diabetes and in inflammatory bowel disease. And now the program that we're going to be talking about today is in rheumatology, and it's a CD19 CAR Treg product, which we call chill, not kill, because it gets activated by B cells in inflamed tissues. And we hope it would chill out all of the immune cell types that are there and calm down the inflammation. And we're going to do a basket trial, which we've just begun in partnership with CTI. And we're beginning with rheumatoid arthritis and scleroderma. And we've got ambitions for lots of different diseases as we go forward, but they're the ones we're starting with. But if you're going to remember one thing about engineered T regulatory cells, it's chill, not kill. We're not trying to kill any immune cells. We're trying to chill out the whole immune compartment.
What led Quell to initiate this particular program where they did? I know that you're in the UK and Spain and Germany. Why did you pick those specific countries to start this program?
Well, first of all, it's an engineered cell therapy. And so we've got a complex supply chain. So we have to do a leukapheresis to acquire the starting material from the patient. And then we have to ship that to our manufacturing facility in London. And then we manufacture our engineered Tregs. And then we freeze them and then we ship them back to the patient where they are. And so there's certain practical limitations on just how far away you can be from that manufacturing plant. And while we think we could be operating in North America, for example, to begin with, it's simpler just to begin more locally. So we began with the UK partly for that reason, and also Europe, where we ran our previous study. And then a lot of the rest of it is down to personal relationships that we've got with the investigators at the sites who we know really well. We've got lovely long-term relationships with a lot of trust, actually friendship built up over the years. So we feel really confident that they'll enroll the patients and they feel really confident in us that we'll deliver them a high quality product. And a call out to our colleagues in Birmingham in the UK. So that's Andy Filer and Adam Croft and Ben Fisher, really distinguished department there. Our chief investigator is Chris Buckley in Oxford, who's just become a fantastic friend, mentor, colleague over many years now. And then broadly, we've got this phenomenal KOL network in the UK, a really distinguished rheumatologists, actually. John Isaacs in Newcastle. In Leeds, you've got Francesco Delgado and Paul Emery. The Royal Free is Chris Denton and Vu Nong, really superb. Andy Cope and Fran Humby at the Guys, Maya Book in Manchester. And then we've got some pick sites. We've got Nicola Gullick in Coventry, Tony Chan at Reading, And then you can't have missed, if you've been following cell therapy and autoimmunity, you cannot have missed the incredible work from Germany recently with CAR T and lupus in particular, obviously led by Georg Schett in Erlangen, and then Jörg Distler in Dusseldorf, and then fantastic energy in Spain by really wonderful rheumatologists Esperanzo Neredo and Otto Olivas. So we're incredibly privileged to work with all of those people, and great to name check them all, I hope.
At what point did you realize you needed a partner like CTI, and what were you looking for in that collaboration?
Well, we needed to partner with a group with a matching culture, people who are pragmatic, energetic, creative problem solvers, able to think outside of the box. But we knew that we had a really complex program because the supply chains are what I've described. And we needed a partner that we really felt confident would help us accelerate our timelines. Our vice president of clin operations had previously had a great experience working with CTI. And then when you guys did the bid defense, it was super credible. And you brought the real team that was actually going to be working on the program to the bid defense. And so the team felt like they knew the people they were actually going to work with, and they had a real shared vision with those people. In the end, it was a real slam dunk for CTI, and we felt really confident when we awarded the contract.
So Savannah, from CTI side, how did you first get connected with Quell, and what stood out about the program early on?
I think a lot of our relationships start this way, where we have a past experience with someone and that trust already built. That always makes it a little bit easier. I think if you think about CTI as a whole, we're always focused on really complex programs in an area with an unmet medical need. And obviously, Quell fits just squarely in that component. We're super excited about the innovation that this program is bringing. But I think that component of having an individual that we've already established that trust, and it's really that foundation for our relationship. To Luke's point, this is one where our partner really wanted to accelerate the timeline. So we have to be able to really quickly integrate into that way of working and in that process. And I think that we've done an excellent job between Quell and CTI of trying to blur the lines of where does one company stop and the other one begin. So I think it's been a really nice collaboration for us.
So the UK offers a significant opportunity with saying that the manufacturing is right there, but also added complexity. What were the biggest challenges you anticipated related to regulatory pathways, NHS, site activation, and viability across all the sites in Europe and in the UK?
You're always worried about regulatory timelines. You're always worried about contracting. You're always worried about enrollment of patients whenever you embark on this kind of program. I have to say the regulators were magnificently supportive and really understood our needs, and were prepared to move really quickly while not compromising their high standards. Then in terms of contracting, there's some specifics, building those relationships with sites that go beyond a sort of generic product. This is a really complicated study. It means you need kind of everybody in the hospital to work together. You've got to get those sites interlinked internally, and you've got to get the rheumatologists really working closely with the hemoncs. CAR T is traditionally been held and owned by the hemoncs. The rheumatologists aren't necessarily up to speed. Those departments don't necessarily normally work together. And then it's a sort of an esoteric therapy as well. And with that comes skepticism, and you need to sort of demystify it for everybody. So we took the approach that we needed to dispel any preconceptions between the safety profile that people have become used to with CAR T. And you'll remember that CAR T causes a lot of cytokine release syndrome and ICANS, the neurological syndrome, whereas Tregs just don't cause any of those problems. And so we needed to go and dispel any of those preconceptions. And so we talked to absolutely anybody who would listen in the site, so all levels. Obviously, I get used to working with the super senior guys who lead the sites, but you've got to kind of talk to the research fellows, you've got to talk to the nurses, you've got to talk to the pharmacists, and you've got to talk to every doctor across all of those different departments just to really gel the site. And I think that the Quell clinical operations team and the CTI team have got such great EQ. They're really great at bringing all those people together and forming teams that have never existed before. And actually, I think that might even be a legacy that we leave at some of these sites and across the UK ecosystem when this study's done, is actually that we've just brought a whole lot of people together to work together who never really knew each other.
So, Savannah, we often hear that the UK startup timelines can extend to 5, 6 months. Was that baseline expectation going into the program, and where did delays most often occur?
I think this is one where we worked together to assume that we were going to be accelerated relative to our startup process. I think Luke touched on some of the areas that you can see delays, and it can be as simple as that ecosystem that he talked about just not yet being in place. So I think our teams worked pretty tirelessly to make sure that we were being proactive across some of those categories. But to answer your question, usually if there's going to be delays, it's on the contracting, budget, approval side of things. So I think you did an excellent job of being proactive across all of those areas.
You talked about getting all these people together and talking to all the right people, Luke. From your perspective, how did that early engagement change the experience compared to a more traditional startup approach?
We just had this really clear need. We just had to drive it. We're a runway limited biotech, right? So we had to go fast. We had no choice. So what we did is we had a strong out of the gate. That was the motto in the clinical team. So we were going to do everything all at once, right away, without waiting for delays to force us to change path. And so we approached all of the national bodies. And so the NIHR was incredibly helpful, and they made us a vaccine innovation pathway, which is the VIP program. And they allocated us a named project manager who was incredibly effective, incredibly well networked across all the hospital sites, and unpicked a lot of the roadblocks that we got with contracting and things. That in itself was a big accelerator for us. We facilitated the clinical research facility network, actually in collaboration with some of our investigators. Our chief investigator is a CRF leader. And so we convened all of those. We convened the Advanced Therapy Treatment Centers network, which gave us a forum to spread the word. We engaged the BIA, the Bioindustry Association, the Academy of Medical Sciences, the patient advisory groups, and the rheumatology community. So all of these people, we just marshaled all of those forces all at once without waiting to kind of hit a roadblock. We just decided that we were going to go for it right away. And then the end result of that was that we actually got our study up and running in 113 days. And at that point, the benchmark to go from regulatory validation to the first patient in was 210 days. So I think we cut that timeline by 48% by just hitting it really hard and getting a lot of help from all of those people. They all wanted to help us, all wanted to engage with us, and our success was their success. And we've been on their press releases now as their flagship project. I think it was just a kind of all guns blazing. We're going to make this happen, guys. No time for excuses. We're just going to get this thing to happen beautifully and happen fast with the help of everybody we can get.
A 48% acceleration in the timeline is incredible. Looking at that outcome, Savannah, reaching site readiness to screen significantly faster than the typical timeline, 50%. What specific decisions or approaches do you think made the biggest difference?
It's kind of interesting because for a startup to go well, so many pieces have to fall into place. And I don't think if you asked or polled the industry and said, what's your favorite part of trial execution, that many people would say that they just love the startup portion because it's hard, it's complicated. So many things have to go right. But I've always thought about sitting at the other end of startup as a patient or a family that really wants access to this treatment. And one of the things that Luke and I have talked about is his ability and just some patient stories that he's heard relative to what this is going to mean on the other end. So I would love for Luke to maybe give the audience a little bit of a glimpse into the patient side of things. And yes, we accelerated timelines to 113 days, but I think the bigger picture is we made this trial accessible that much quicker. So Luke, I would love for you to maybe just give some insights into the patient side of things and what does this really mean for the people that are waiting for this treatment?
Yeah, you're so right. So we got two groups of patients here. So one of them is rheumatoid arthritis, difficult to treat rheumatoid arthritis. And the kind of definition, the EULAR definition of difficult to treat rheumatoid is that you've got to have failed at least 2 prior therapies. But actually, the patients who've been showing up for our trial have failed far more than that in some cases. So these folks have worked through kind of every drug in pharmacy and nothing's worked for them. And they've got ongoing pain and disability and accruing damage to their joints as a result of that. So they really want our novel therapy. And you can see that because we've got a queue actually of patients who want to come into the study. And every week we have an investigator call where all the doctors looking after those patients show up and discuss the cases. And we hear those real experiences of those patients who've been waiting for this therapy and are really, frankly, desperate to join our study because the severity of their disease is so great. In a way, that enthusiasm of the patients and the enthusiasm of the physicians to enroll their patients tells its own story, that this is a really critical unmet need. So that's one patient population, that's rheumatoid arthritis. The other population is scleroderma. Scleroderma is a life-limiting disease for a lot of patients. It was originally called scleroderma because the first thing you see is fibrosis of the skin, but actually the more modern name is systemic sclerosis, which reflects the fact that you get fibrosis in all of the organs of your body, right down to your heart and your lungs and your gut. So really bad symptoms, actually really unpleasant disease to live with, but actually quite a lot of those patients do get early mortality as a result of lung and cardiac fibrosis. So there's a real unmet need here. They don't have a lot of therapies that change the trajectory of their disease. And it affects quite young female patients generally. So there's a lot of enthusiasm. And as I've said, the pace of our enrollment tells its own story, that these patients really need that. And that is in the end why we need to bring this therapy through and to navigate the realities of biotech. That in order to do that successfully, you have to do it within a cash constraint and a time constraint. Actually, if those patients are going to get that life-changing therapy that we hope this will be, we do have to deal with those practicalities and we do have to bring it forward efficiently. And I think if you met anybody in our team, anybody in the CTI team, they would share that vision of really want to help in the patients at the end of it, because they hear, like I do, they hear those patient stories every week on that call. So they're so motivated to bring forward this new therapy.
How has this experience overall changed the way that you will approach studies in the future and study startup in the future?
For me, I mean, there's a ton of learnings. A lot of times you do things and you kind of get negative learnings. Oh, I'm not going to do that again. The great thing about this study is we've actually all learned a load of really positive things. The first thing that we begin with is that we've got a really compelling, different, scientifically interesting product. And I've realized just how important that's been, because when we can tell that story to the investigators and they can tell that to the patients, then actually that's square one, right? So Quell has created something really interesting here that's never quite been done before in this way. And it's a great starting point, actually. And then beyond that, it's about engaging the broad team. And by that broad team, I mean Quell, I mean CTI, I mean all of our investigators, I mean the research nurses in the site, all the physicians and the patients as well. And so we've tried to make it as exciting for all of those people as we possibly can, not only to bring forward this really compelling and exciting new therapy, but also for their own careers. That I want people to have stories to tell at their next interview when they go for their next job about how this was a transformational moment for them in their career, that they really made something extraordinary happen with, really amazing dedication to the cause, really phenomenal people, amazing team. In terms of the academics want to do stuff that academics do. They want to be able to publish papers. They want to be able to do their own scientific research. So we've actively encouraged everybody to build their own translational side projects onto the side of the Chill program, so that they will have their own stories to tell that they can publish in their own right, which again is great for us, because with a successful product, then that's its own advocacy, right? We've got, I mean, I love my team, the energy they bring, their drive, their emotional intelligence with the community, their transparency, the way they build trust with people is extraordinary. And CTI is a true extension of that. The continuous thinking outside of the box and creative problem solving and hearing ideas from wherever they come from is really important. We've got a spirit of incremental gains. If you talk to like elite athletes, they say if you can get a second here or a second there, or shave an ounce off your sort of elite bike, you can go slightly faster. So we've kind of got a spirit that if you can save it one day on a timeline, then you should save that one day on a timeline, because they add up. And actually every single incremental gain contributes to the whole. And then the final piece is that we just wanted this to be fun and human. right? So we've kind of got this spirit of fun for us, fun for the patients, fun for the physicians. I mean, it's deadly serious, but it doesn't mean we take it any less seriously, but we do want to have a spirit where we all enjoy our work and where we enjoy interacting together as a team, as a bunch of humans, sort of minimizing the corporate and building trust among us all so that we all understand the product that we're bringing forward. So I think that's the spirit that we want to bring to it.
Yeah, it seems so silly, right? Because we were talking about this transformative therapy, but you do have to remind people of what they're doing. I think Luke and the Quell team have done just a phenomenal job of making sure that we're constantly reminding people of, yes, we're trying to shave a second, an hour, a day off of all these timelines, but the bigger picture of what are you a part of? And this is something, to Luke's point, that for the rest of your career, you can point back to, I was a part of this trial. I was a part of bringing one of the first therapies in this area to market. And it's just one of the most rewarding aspects of the work that each of us gets to do every day.
Luke, I've got one more question for you before we wrap it up. What's the future look like for Quell in the short term and in the long term?
We're just so excited to be bringing forward these programs. We're purely focused on delivering transformational therapies that change people's lives. So where we'd like to land with this chilled program is with a therapy which is broadly applicable to a range of different populations, where we've simplified the clinical experience so we can deliver it to the patients a lot more easily. And so it becomes broadly accessible. And we've got a bunch of other programs that I've described in that pipeline where the vision is the same. So in a perfect world, when we've succeeded with this study, I very much hope we'll have a uniquely efficacious therapy, which is straightforward to get to those patients and has huge impact. So that's what I want as a physician. It's what we all want for Quell, and it's what we want in the end for the patients.
Well, thank you, Savannah. Thank you, Luke, for joining me today. It was really great hearing about Quell, and I'm excited for this too.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate you having us, Jeremy. And yes, we're super excited to be a part of the project, and even more excited for the months ahead.
Thank you to Luke Devey and Savannah Doliboa for joining us today. It is clear that the cutting-edge work that Quell Therapeutics is doing is helping to move medicine forward. And as always, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and leave us a review. Visit CTI Facts to learn more about how we can help you with your clinical trials. Until next time, stay curious, stay compassionate, and keep moving medicine forward.